maybe should we do it?
I'm scared to do the intro. I haven't slept. Don't get me started. I'm really, I'm about to. So here we go. Why not? Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Everyone's Doing Better Than Me, the podcast where we skewer more successful people for their successes and how they have hurt us every day of our lives. My name is Katharyn Henson, along with my co-host,
Eve Ellenbogen.
And Eve, I got to ask you today, this week, this month, this year, who hurt you?
You know, okay, so I told you I've started doing stand-up again, right? It's in New York. I've been
What's stand-up?
Stand-up comedy. People used to get together in dark basements that smell either of cleaning fluid or cum, and you can never really tell the difference, which is a weird kind of caveat about cleaning fluid. Why does it smell kind of like cum if it sits there for too long? But anyway,
that's how it's made. It's like kombucha. It's fermented.
Fermented cum eventually can act as bleach.
Yeah,
that's what everyone says to me when they come in my face.
That's why my dresser's so clean.
Yeah. All right, I said face. I was going to say my skin looks so young, but it's not actually.
Fine, it's yours. You can have it.
Yeah, I did come up with it, but thank you. So I started doing stand-up again, and it's interesting because, and it is a real exercise in humility, because now that I'm in New York and I was doing stand-up in Australia, I am back at the open mic level, and which is like, if you don't know, if you're listening, open mic level is like, it's basically like, it's like special ed. Yeah, it's like special ed. It's like, I mean, I feel bad for people in special ed by saying, I don't know if you know, special ed is just, people who can't read, basically. That's what open micers are like. It's all a bunch of like young dudes who were like, people have always said I remind them of Dave Chappelle. And I'm like, no one said that to you. And so, but it's okay.
They wrote that in their diary.
Oh,
their journal. Sure. Their journal.
I'm sure they tell it to their little penises. Baby, one day they're gonna look at us and say, "Wow, he's a real." I don't know.
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Louis. Louis down there.
I've always been kind of a prophet, and so so I've started and I've actually, the truth is, I'm enjoying it in general because nobody knows me. People go, "Wow, that was really good," and I'm like, "Thank you, second gig." I just started. I mean, I'm like 8 years in. I'm like, it just came to me. But and there's no expectations and whatever. I've been working on the material, but what hurts me is having to hear these guys, and some of them, I feel for them because I'm like, it must be so hard to be so dumb and to not know. And that's just
no. Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. I firmly believe that.
But the frustration with wanting to make it as a comedian, and I'm like, honey, it's never gonna happen. So last week somebody got up there and like his opening thing was like, do you guys ever like nut on your girlfriend's face? When you're just like nut in her eye? Thanks,
every
Sam.
time.
So that somebody else talked about like fingering a fat girl in the woods, his words. And I was like, oh my God, she was fat.
That's where it happens.
That is so funny. Oh my God. Did you get it? Because the punchline is like, he was fingering a woman. Funny to begin with. They're not real people. But then she was fat. Like, that is hilarious. I'm like, oh, then I'm just sitting there and I can't even hide it in my face. I'm looking at them and I'm trying to be supportive, but I'm like, I hope you kill yourself because nobody, but then I feel bad because it brings me to a place in myself that I don't like. I shouldn't wish that on just any 19-year-old boy talking to strangers. So
did you write it in your journal?
Okay. All right. Yeah. You and the war against the journals. Today I didn't journal, honestly, and I'm a bit fried.
Thank God. No, yeah. I'm kidding. I love your journal.
Oh, blah, blah, blah. There were like pretty much no women at this one place that I went to last night, where the guy talked about fingering the fat chick last week, and then the other guy talked about nutting on someone's face. There were no women, and I'm like, I just cannot imagine why not. But I was there, and I was better than everybody. But then again, I've been doing it for 8 years, so it's not real. It's like sad that I say that.
It's a gold participant ribbon.
Well, it's just the saddest thing where it's like, I don't know, it's like an I'm not a fucking Olympic, whatever, but it's like someone who like does high school swimming turning up at the 5-year-old's kiddie pool and being like, I was faster. It's like,
you're Matthew McConaughey in that movie. What's that movie where he is like in college but goes back to the high school party? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Dazed and Confused.
There we go.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah. Yep, there you are.
And he's not
abs.
He's not in college. He's just like a loser who hangs around. And yes,
well,
that
you.
is me. I'm like, all right. You know, what does he say about like the girls? He's like, love
No
me
idea.
some. Anyway,
No, I got nothing.
that was the longest "Who Hurt You" I think I've ever done. And the real reason I went on so long is because I know you're so tired, but like you gave me nothing in that I was like, I have to keep talking until I get a laugh. I never did.
Well, I laughed. Did I? Sam, can you back me
You
up here?
absolutely did laugh.
Thank you. I laughed at you.
I needed more.
Well,
I
I'm
am a husk.
trying to warm to Katharyn because if we're friends, I can now sledge you and be like, nah. But Katharyn and I have work to do in our friendship, and I'm here for it.
Oh, right. So you're going to be on Katharyn's side, but
Yeah, absolutely, for the whole podcast.
Oh, well, I need this. I need this because
She's having a
I
bad
do
day.
need this.
Oh, yeah, look at this. Oh, the two Gentiles turning on the Jew. What a coincidence. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, we really need each other. And, you know, she's hiding under the table. You know, just take her. So we need to get close. It's all right. I'm used to, I was told to prepare for this. I was told I could never trust you people. So, Katharyn, who hurt you? I know it wasn't Sam. Who hurt you this week?
I don't know where to start. Do I start with the IRS? I think I could start there, right? That's a relatable topic, the IRS.
Oh my God, internal. Yeah. Do you know that I always call them the IRA and then I forget that's the IRA?
Yeah.
IRS.
I wish I had the IRA to take on the IRS because motherfuck, like I have never had a problem.
And explain what the IRS is if people don't know what it is.
The IRS are taxes.
Internal Revenue Service in the
Yeah,
US.
I don't want to. No. Don't say the whole thing. It's very upsetting.
Right.
Don't say the whole thing. I have filed my taxes every year without issue until, of course, dun dun dun. You know, the Corona year, right? And now, and like, I couldn't. I can't even. I don't even want to explain it. It's very difficult. But just at some point, back when I was like, am I going to hang myself or should I mail my mom a piece of paper that has my taxes on it so she can mail it to the IRS for me? My 77-year-old mother, her and her little mom friends got together and they like sent in my taxes for me. And
But I'm sorry, but who submits their taxes by paper? Why don't you do it online?
it won't let me. It won't let me.
On TurboTax?
I don't know. I do not know. It rejected. And like, you know, and I this was, again, one of the many reasons why I was like, I should end my life on this earth. I can't handle this.
I can't pay taxes. I got to kill myself.
No.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mailed it back in like March and like I'm trying to check the status of it and all it says is we can't tell you anything. And it's like due in 3 days and it has to be accepted by federal in order for me to file state. So I'll put it this way. My mom's gay cousin.
Right. Not just a person, not a cousin.
You know,
the gay cousin.
The gay cousin, I guess, used to do taxes and was doing her taxes last night. So I am up until 7 a.m. Okay.
Right.
Like 7:30. Right. Mm-hmm. Because I'm like talking to my mom who is like, you know, we were playing literal game of telephone, right. Like between me and her and the gay cousin to try to understand what's happening because the status of it is like unknown on their website and I can't file my state until my federal is accepted and it's all due in 3 days.
You can file for an extension.
I know it's so weird, but I've never had to do any of this.
Right. Okay.
But this is not. Right. It's not done. So I'm up until 7:30. Mm-hmm. I'm up until 7:30 in the morning, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed. You know, it's time, and I get into my bed and. I'm asleep for like my Mark leaves for work. I'm asleep. I don't know how long I'm asleep for before I start hearing a sound that I told myself I would never forget and fortunately have forgotten. But it was something like a jackhammer, like, you know, and then like clang, 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 you know, and I was like, okay, like there's some shit going on. But then it was getting closer and closer and close and it wasn't stopping. And then I like gaze out of my little shade and I see the scaffolding being built like built in front of my windows and I'm like, oh fuck, and like and the sound, I'm like, well, this isn't even close to done. So I get out of the bed and I put on my clothes and I waddle on downstairs and I'm like, hello, because now I'm like this scaffolding in my mind, I'm like, this scaffolding has to do with Henry's noise. I know it in my bones.
You should say who who Henry, the guy who upstairs, like basically stalked you because he was convinced that a tiny noise that nobody else can hear was coming from your apartment, and then you guys had like an explosive fight. People have messaged me. Friends of mine who listen to the podcast have messaged me to find out the Henry status. I love that.
Well, so I'm like, it's fucking Henry's noise, right? And so, so I'm like quivering in my bones, from like sleep deprivation and like anger and rage, but like I've been doing the woo woo, so I'm not gonna like explode. So I like look at
you have to like all these like the woo woo. I'm like, you can't just say I'm doing the woo woo because people like you and I talk all the time. Other people don't know what the woo woo is.
The woo, I'm doing meditation and Wim Hof breathing.
Right. You still mock me for my fucking journal, but you're like the fucking most like, what you should do is deep breathe on the couch. Like that's now.
That's why I can be awake for 48 hours and then record a podcast at midnight.
Right. By the way, not on ketamine. I'm so impressed with you, my little girl.
As soon as this is done,
right?
As soon as this is done, I will disappear into a hole.
Right, the K hole. Yeah,
the K. It's titled K. But I speak to this like young, strapping Italian lad, and I'm like, hello. I'm like, and they're building this, and I'm like, I can see you're about to just cover my windows, right? Mm-hmm. So I just have to ask, what's happening here? And he's like, oh, we're painting the building. So I'm like, oh, it's not Henry's noise. I'm like, oh, okay, so that shouldn't take too long, right? I mean, this will, He's like, oh, 3-4 months. I'm
no.
like, you should see it. It's like
3 or 4 months.
He is Italian, and he was like, they have to do the front and the back, and I'm like, I get it, you're passionate lovers, but like, I'm like, I think
take your time.
He meant the whole thing,
right? Okay,
and I think and it's not as bad as I thought it would be, but. And I know this is like, like littlest violin, but it's like now, it's like I have the most New York City view right now out of my fucking windows. It's just scaffolding. I'm like, oh, of course. There it is. And so it was my taxes. It was my mother. It was her gay cousin because, they're old and it's not their fault. They were trying to help me. But, it's like we don't know. We can't connect. And then, so I didn't sleep. I've had no sleep.
Well, I will tell you this though.
I did. Sorry, go.
You have new glasses and you have this fun new shag haircut.
Yeah.
And I think, and you're tired. So your energy is a bit different today. And to me, you're like, you're like a college DJ, like on a college radio station. Like you look like a 90s like feminist who like is like, all right, you guys, now I'm going to put on my favorite band, Le Tigre, followed by my second favorite band, Slater Kinney. Like that's what that's like who you are to me.
I know.
And you listen to vinyl and nobody else listens to vinyl yet because it's the 90s still. And you wear Doc Martens but like with like long plaid skirts.
Yeah, my vagina gives people paper cuts. That's what I feel like.
What?
That's who I am now. You can't put a penis inside of it without it coming out just
bleeding.
Sliced. Yeah.
Is that weird? That happens to me all the time. I'm kidding.
Blessed. Hashtag blessed.
Yeah, hashtag penis shredder. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm bummed out about my view. And there was something else, and I don't even remember it because I have been awake way too long. Way too long.
Well, that's okay because... Do you want me to give you more time to finish that, or can I?
No.
Can I go to our guest who's been sitting here
cradle me like a baby
for hours
I know he
now.
hasn't said anything.
He hasn't said anything, and we're just
Are you
yammering.
Masturbating?
Yeah. What's going on with you, Sam? What's going on down there? You're getting over a cold.
Yeah, I'm getting over a cold. I'm so sorry. I thought that I was meant to stay quiet until you two finish your. I'm so sorry.
I mean,
was I meant to engage, or does it look like I've just been?
Oh no,
really upset?
You could. It was totally up to you. I think the problem here is that you were respectful and trying to give
Which
us
means
room.
You're a motherfucker.
Yeah. No. It was really up to you either way. But then I realized midway through I was like, I don't think I told Sam that he could join in if he felt like it.
And you know what's fucked up, because I'm so tired. I realized I didn't even say, and our guest today. I just was
oh
like,
my God, you're right.
I was like, like just breathing like a dragon into the microphone from start to finish. So we should do it now.
We're so unprofessional.
God damn it. We
really are.
I am a it's 12:28 a.m. I am here.
It's late.
I've got my headphones on. I look like I'm about to take off on a rocket ship. All right,
Sam, I'm so sorry to bring you into this mess. My friend is so. I'm very professional, but my friend is a real train
I don't know
wreck.
who this woman is.
You accidentally came into this Zoom call and you're like, this is a mess.
Yeah. Well, I'll do. Our guest today is my friend Sam Petersen, who I've known for, I guess, kind of years now.
Yeah.
From
we
Australia.
met in Melbourne comedy, on the Melbourne comedy scene.
We met in comedy, and then I'll get into later how our friendship really became real. I'll get into that after. But then I've been on your podcast several times, Confessions of the Idiots, and you and I recorded a podcast with just me and you when I was doing this podcast before Katharyn joined. And then while I was editing it, I lost your audio. Oh no, I lost one of our audios, and it was like a very fun episode. But the blessing, the blessing in disguise is that now we get to have you on today.
Yeah.
And Katharyn. Yeah. So
I'm scared he doesn't like me.
No, he doesn't. Yeah. No, Sam
Oh,
likes
God.
Sam likes everybody. I think that's true, right, Sam?
That's correct. I don't think you're a podcaster until you've lost at least 1 or 2 episodes.
Well,
I think that you just have to go through that. That happens all the time.
that makes me feel really good because I felt so fucking bad. I was like, this is hideous. I was so embarrassed.
No, everybody loses them.
Yeah. I don't know. That's
You're not convinced.
that's the only one. That's the only one I've lost. I mean, there's other ones I haven't put out.
Well, okay, I do take that personally then.
Yeah, no, well, there's other ones I haven't put out.
Specifically lost mine. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Oops, sorry. I must have dropped it in the drain. Sam.
It is funny though when you record a podcast and then someone doesn't bring it out for ages. Like it's like I did one that was like it took like 10 months for it to come out.
10
months. And I was like, maybe my episode wasn't very good. Like that's what you start to think. You're like,
you
shit, I
were a
fucked that up.
guest.
I was a guest on it. Yeah,
Right.
it didn't come out for so long. And I knew that friends of mine were recording episodes after mine, and I knew they were coming out, and I was like, oh,
Wow.
no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, mine just wasn't very good, and so I just left it, and then my friend messaged them and were like, oh, well, Sam's not very good, like, just brought it up with them because knew that I recorded that, and they reached out to my friends because I was on it or something like that, and then they brought it out 10 months later, and I was just like,
wow.
oh, it mustn't
What
be
did they
very
say?
good.
What did they say?
Nothing. It
Yeah,
just came out.
nothing.
And I was
No.
like, oh, right. I can't
Of
remember
course
what I
they said
said.
nothing.
Yeah, of course not.
Weird. Well, I had Reese Nicholson on, but it was just before COVID. It was like a month before COVID, and then I didn't put it out for like 10 months. And then I
Because
had
you
messaged.
did flee the country.
I fled, and I owe money in Australia, and I'm not fucking coming back until they agree to waive. I don't even know if that would show up if I tried to apply for a visa, but I'm like a little afraid that if I ever decide to go back, they're gonna be like, you owe us $1,500 in speeding tickets plus interest.
This is recording.
I know. I thought about that. Oh yeah, if you're listening from the Australian government, why don't you go fuck yourself?
Wow.
Because-
you're doubling down.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm sorry, but the speed cameras in Australia are so sensitive. Katharyn, you don't drive, right?
Is this another Who Hurt You?
Okay,
I'm just
all right,
asking.
okay,
I'm just
all
asking.
right, all right.
You know, can I? Well, I really, I would love to hear about it. I know, I love that
All
you
right.
love to speed. I'm a fast cookie
Yeah,
myself.
yeah,
all
yeah.
right?
You're
But
fast cookie. Shut
I'm
up.
a fast. Yeah, shut. I haven't slept in I don't know how long. All right, I literally just dug myself out of a grave to do this podcast. All right, so
Right.
I want to ask Sam.
Right.
And I know you do too.
I do.
You
I
wanna do it in
want
unison?
to
Should
know.
we do it in unison?
Already one,
Try.
two,
2,
three.
3.
Who hurt
you?
That was good.
It was
I
bad.
think that the lag on Zoom will really make that pop. Because I've been in bed for the last few weeks, like sleeping heaps and everything. There hasn't been really anyone that's hurt me apart from the Uber delivery driver who, it was the same person twice in one day.
Oh, that's bad. That's so bad.
The judgment.
He did say, "You've already ordered this today."
What the fuck? You don't get that fucking. Fuck you.
What was the
I was
order?
very
Guy.
upset.
Also,
It was,
None of
I
his
ordered
business.
Thai food.
None of his business what
Thai
you
food.
ordered. How dare he
Yeah.
look at the order?
Yeah, he was very upset. Like he didn't look happy with it at all. And the
Wow.
judgment, being because I had a COVID test, I was waiting on the results, and so I couldn't actually meet him
Right.
to do it. So I sent him a message and just said, leave it there and I'll go and get it. And so I did see him, and then he was like, gave me a wave the first time. Really lovely, really friendly, really like. I thought we were going to be friends forever. And then second time he came, he was just so upset, and it's just like, you've ordered this. It wasn't that I ordered the same food. It was just that I've already ordered Uber Eats today.
Okay, but I guess still, how dare he?
How dare he? Yeah, so he really upset me and hurt me this week. But you were both describing things that you've been out in the world and, actually, been maybe hurt by real people. I'm not saying that the Uber driver was not a real person, but it's a very trivial thing compared to everything else that he got so upset that I'd already ordered that day.
I think Katharyn was who hurt me really came from Katharyn saying one time to me that if she thinks about anything hard enough, she can get upset. Yeah. So I think that this is a perfect who hurt me, because it is the most trivial of all of ours, and yet the most painful.
Yeah, it really hurt. It really hurt. And he called me as well, so now I've got his number, and I feel like following up.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You should call him.
Send him a text.
Yeah, excuse me. It is not your business to judge me.
I was on a podcast the other night, and I've really got to get this out. Yeah. They were upset too. It's not just me.
Yeah, I've talked about this.
I've talked about this a lot.
Yeah, they're both American. One's in the U.S., one's in the U.K., so they're kind of an international perspective. Yeah. And we all agree you're a fucking cunt, and you should mind your own goddamn fucking business. I mean, and so that was your only COVID test, right, of COVID?
No, I've had about 7.
Wow.
Yeah, look at you show off. Yeah. What have you been doing?
I just like a swab up my nose and down my throat. No, I just kept getting them because anytime I'd have like contact with someone, because I was working all the way through it, if I came into contact with someone who had like a sore throat or something, I'd just go and get it.
Right, okay.
Every time, just so that I knew. And when we were in lockdown, it was actually a real treat. Like Melbourne was in lockdown for so long. It was a real treat to go out.
Bring it up. I'm too tired to feel okay about it because I was there.
You left? Did you just after COVID? After the lockdown?
Yeah. No, I left during. I was 6 months in to the lockdown.
So you left? What was it? September? October?
September.
Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And Eve
so right before it opened.
Yeah, no, I left right before COVID started. By the way, Sam, I can only really see the reflection of on your glasses. Is there any?
Oh, I've got very mischievous eyes today. I didn't want you to see them.
I don't know. Whatever.
I can take them off.
Is that? Can you still see?
Yeah, I can still see.
Okay, then I think that's probably a good solution because
okay,
I feel like I can't. Okay, God, you're really
I just have
handsome.
my eyes closed for the whole time.
Yeah, well,
imagine that you watch it back and you're like, hold on. He was asleep. I'm pretty sure he was in a fever dream.
Before this, Katharyn and I, we always talk a little bit before the podcast starts. And she was like, can I just close my eyes while you talk?
That takes me by surprise, by the way.
that we talk before the podcast. We talk all day, every day. It's
so nice.
Yeah, I think it's nice. But I'm like, are we like mentally ill together? Like, are we like, it's fun for us, and then I'm like, are we these like delusional old crones who were like, yeah, like let's work on our podcast and our stand-up and woo, things are happening, and it's like really just the two of us, and like we don't realize that like we're actually like living this whole fantasy out by like making little dolls and like doing do you know what I mean, like we have like a doll house.
I worry about this too. I worry about this too.
I wonder if we're just like hallucinating the rest of our lives, and it's just like my life is like one big chat with Katharyn.
I thought you said you would never done ketamine. I really did. I thought you said that.
So the other day I was like really bored. I was editing one of the podcasts and I was like really coming up against a lot of internal.
That's not a good plug for the podcast, by the way.
No, but you know when you're just like,
I was really bored. I was editing the podcast.
It was like, you know when it's just like you kind of hit your own, you're like, God, I just doing work sometimes really gets to me. And so I was like, you know what? I have this extra, these mushrooms, but it was like a honey that the mushrooms were like, they were like kind of distilled and then honey infused with psilocybin, I guess. So I decided to take a bunch of it and I was like, ooh, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. I ended up just doing the dishes and talking to Katharyn for 4 hours.
I was on MDMA.
Wow.
Yeah. And the next day I just was like, what did we do? You know, like what did we
I've been in a lockdown for I kind of did the math, like 13 months. So
Wow.
I'm certainly feeling. I like realized my journey. I was like, why am I just doing drugs? And I'm like, oh, I miss stand-up comedy.
Well,
Yeah,
I think you miss stand-up comedy and you have no life. Like, no offense.
Yeah.
Like,
No offense.
yeah, no, it's not you. It's just that your life is horrible.
No offense. I should be there for Eve every time she says something, says something about someone. I should just be there going, no offense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, in the background.
Yeah, like when I do stand-up and I roast the open
Yeah.
micers. No offense.
No offense.
Well, that's me at the end. You know, I obviously roast everybody when I'm on stage, and I have roasted these open micers, and it has made me kind of horny and have fun again.
Yeah.
And then I always go, just kidding, I'm just flirting, and that's my
fun.
version of no offense. So before I go into like all the reasons I'm jealous of you, I will just say that you and I, Sam, met at a really crucial moment in our lives, I think, because you had just started seeing this chick. And I was kind of seeing, I guess I would call him a loser.
No.
That's fair.
But he wasn't a loser the way that most of the men I date are losers. He had a job. And, he spoke to... Yeah, I mean, that.
Yeah.
Listen, you don't understand with me. I've dated he brushed his teeth. I dated somebody who...
Once a week.
Oh, I dated somebody who never brushed his teeth. Like, I mean, I can't even. It's something to talk about with my therapist, I think. Okay. But this guy, I like met this German dude. Never dated a German guy because they're always like, yeah. So I find it really interesting that and you're like, just eat me out. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, just fucking stop with the words and just put your face in my pussy. But we never even made out. He just wasted my time with an accent.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just a slow, artful, like, I'm going to die one day. And some of my time is being eaten up by you talking about architecture. And so I meet this guy, and he was actually like a neighbor we met through Tinder. And we would go for walks, and we hung out. And then he invited me over for dinner. And of course, this is how he's like wasting my time. It's like we hung out so long, and we never even made out. And then I walk in, and you were there.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God, because those people were so fucking dry, him and his housemates, and boring. And I walked in and I knew you a little bit from stand up, and I was like, Sam's here. And then we had fun.
Yeah, because I was the same. Like, it's like
Yes.
when you see a comic anywhere and your eyes just meet them and you're like, oh, thank God. And
Yes.
it can be any event, anything. And I remember I was just sitting there chatting about kombucha or something. Like it was like kale maybe, something. And then I saw Eve walk in and I was like, oh, this is good. Okay, this is good. I was like relieved because I knew Eve a little bit through the stand-up scene,
Right.
but not really well.
Right.
And and that was our time to shine. It was just like, and then they were like, I think you had started talking about rape or something, and then I was like, and so then I think they were a bit shocked by me that I was like talking about everything as well. I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't take much to come out.
What was I saying about rape? Was I like, it's really bad. It's so bad.
It's so bad. Just brought it up out of nowhere.
I try to make sure we're all on the same page in this room, okay? Rape is wrong. And they were like, what or no?
The other comment I remember you bringing up at one point, and I can't remember, I think it was you just kept bringing up the point that you feel like most people have been molested. And I remember you bringing that up. So quick.
Not most people, but so many people have been molested.
I really thought you were going to be like, not most people, all people.
All people, yeah. It could have gone either way with that.
Yeah.
To be fair.
It's
but yeah, it was so funny.
It's so funny when you hear these stories about yourself, and you're like, I'm like, I am exactly the caricature of myself that I dread that I am. Do you know what I mean? Like, I one time wrote like a line about myself for stand up that I never really used, but I was like, I look like somebody who's like walking around always upset about the Holocaust. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like my vibe, where I'm just like, it happened. I don't want my change. Do you know what happened to the Jews? Just like so upset, like irate. And I'm like, that is me. I'm like, everybody's been
That's your
molested.
vibe.
Everybody's been molested, and rape is bad, and I just need to say it, and you need to face it. It's like, I mean, I don't know.
Someone get me a journal.
Seriously, I'm gonna write my feelings out. It's so horrifying, but that is what brought us together.
It was a beautiful moment as well. It was such a beautiful moment. But it was so nice to have someone in there with you, even though it was, it felt like...
even though it was me.
No, but you sometimes when you're in moments like that and you're like, that's kind of your life and you kind of think, oh, maybe I'm just real weird and I get really bored in conversation. Yeah, you get real bored in conversations and everything. And you're like, oh, no, this is great. I've got someone who's just like me that's coming in.
Yeah.
And it's a relief every time you see someone that you knew from stand-up.
Well, sometimes I wonder, what, like I was at a party in Melbourne and fortunately some of my friends came. It was just a couple friends and they were comedians. And when they got there, well, I mean, I forget if they were there at the beginning or what, but I tried to mingle with the other people at the party because I liked the people throwing the party. But, so they were my flatmates at the time. And I liked them. But I was talking to their friends and I was like, what, you just want to talk about things. Like they didn't want to laugh. They didn't want to, they just wanted to talk about stuff. Yeah, so I do this and then I live over here. And I would like make a comment and they would kind of,
Everybody's been molested.
Yeah. It's like, so when were you molested? And but they just didn't laugh or they did laugh, but then they would just go back to being serious. And I was thinking, I guess this is what life is like for a lot of people. I guess they just talk. There's no kind of play in the conversation. There's no banter. And that makes me not want to live. So I feel like when I find my people and we can kind of bounce off each other, it's always a fun day. So now I'm trying to find a way to. What is not a fun day, Sam Petersen?
Okay. Never a fun day.
Is when I think about the ways that you're outshining me. Okay, is that a good transition? Is that a good segue?
I like that.
I think
that.
Yeah.
All right, I was like, how do I go make this? How do I get?
Look, he's encouraging you to do what you're about to do.
I know.
Fuck you, Sam.
And I gotta tell you, I was watching Katharyn, and Katharyn is like tired, but she's also looking like, I know she's going, when is Eve gonna get this train back on the tracks? Because she's always like, Eve, you need to focus. I'm like, I don't talk. I don't go off topic. It's like 30 minutes in, and I'm like just getting
38.
All right, here we go. She's gonna bring this up in counseling later. So the ways that you ruin my day, Sam. Mm-hmm. Well, I should just bring this one up first, right? Because here we are on our podcast, and you yourself
with 4 listeners.
How dare you? How dare you? We've had at least 9 down. No, we've had more. I don't want to shit on our podcast because actually, like, I'm like, oh, it's actually doing okay for anyway. Whatever. Yeah.
It was a joke.
Oh, right, that's not funny.
I'm trying to be a comedian.
Having fun. Yeah, no offense.
Yeah, no.
No offense.
You're gonna do that for both of us, for me and Katharyn.
Yeah, no offense.
She didn't mean it. You're just getting upset because you were molested. That's what you should say to the other one.
No offense.
Yeah. And for the record, if anyone's listening, I really do believe most people were molested. But anyway,
and she means no offense by that.
Well, I'm not. I'm on your side. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. I'm not making. I'm like
just no offense.
Yeah. Anyway, this is why we're all going to war. Because we're all really suffering and some other. Anyway, so Sam, back to you.
This is going well.
This is going to be impossible. This is a riddle.
You have your own podcast.
How dare he?
Called Confessions of the... Actually, I'm going to talk shit about you to Katharyn. Okay?
Yeah, great.
You have to listen. Okay. Katharyn?
I did 20 minutes of that at the start, so I feel like...
What if just listening? Oh my God, I'm sorry about that. We should just have we should go back and edit in comments of you responding to things we said.
No offense, every now and
again.
No offense.
Yeah. Sam Petersen is my friend, Katharyn, so-called friend here, who has his own podcast called Confessions of the Idiots.
Great name.
It's a great name.
Thank you so much.
No, don't.
Okay, sorry, Katharyn. Sorry.
Yeah, no offense. So it's and here's the crazy thing about it, right? Because you and I have been doing this podcast for a few months now, and we kind of get insecure, and then we're like, I don't
know what you're talking about.
No, sorry, I get insecure. We're like, do people really like it? How is it? Sam has said to me for a long time, that what really helps him is that he just keeps going. like he like has this like he has like belief in himself and the things he makes. And you know what he also doesn't do? He doesn't seem to put a lot of like negative pressure on himself. Like he just does
not
things
a human.
because
not a human.
Yeah, he just enjoys it and does the work and then just like lets the work speak for itself. He's not just oh, if I get this many views, I'm no one. If I get this many views, I should walk into the river. No, he's just like, I made a thing, I'm going to keep going. And he keeps putting the work in and getting interesting guests and posting on Instagram and just doing it without worrying about it. On top of that, a few years ago, I think it was a few years ago, he just made a documentary. He just decided like, oh,
I'm sorry, that's hard. I see. I can't use my iPhone, so I can't even use my iPhone to get the people together to make a film. Okay,
but like it's like this monster just decides that he's going to do something.
No offense to me.
No offense. This monster.
No offense. Okay.
He just decides. He's like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And then, you know what he does? He does it. And then, you know what he does? Once he does it, like he like records it or whatever, gets the guests in. And then he edits it. And then he shops it around and finds someone to like carry it or like, you know, just an audio. He wants to do something. He does it. He does the work. He doesn't get wrapped up in the emotions of it. And
that's impossible. I can't. Everything I do has emotion. I mean, did you hear my speech about scaffolding 20 minutes ago? I can't handle that. So nothing is without emotion.
And do you want to know
ridiculous.
The worst part about him, which is something that I take very personally for me and you? I think
stab me in the heart.
This is the worst part about him, and I think everybody likes him. Can you imagine everybody liking you? I mean, the basis of our friendship is that we're two very kind of unlikable but redeeming women. Do you know what I mean? Like people are like, well, she's a little bit fucked up, but I don't know. There's something about her that's okay. Sam, it's like people just like him. He doesn't have to like try to like cover it all up with like oh haha, sorry, I didn't mean to be too much. You know, he's just like cool. Like people just like him. They want to work with him. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about him.
You know something you left out already?
What's that?
The mustache. Okay, I have one of those, and it doesn't look that good. Okay,
that's true. Yeah,
it's very upsetting. Yeah.
The mustache is me in being sick, just trying to mix things up a little.
Oh,
bit.
I'm sorry. Wait. Oh, you're sick? So you're sick and you look that good? Go fuck yourself. And you're probably doing that while sick. So you've already done it. So you've already achieved everything. All right. Get out of the. Leave the call. Leave the call.
You're sick.
I'll break out into my own breakout room by myself on Zoom.
You're sick and you turn up to our fucking podcast like a trooper and make us look bad because when we have period cramps, we're like, I can't do it today. Oh, and you have like pneumonia and you're just like, well, whatever happens, I just want to be there for my friend.
Yeah, my final act.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sam. Make me feel like a dick. But yeah, okay, so anyway, I adore you and I'm jealous of your seeming zen in some ways, what seems to be like an inner zen. And
just very chill, very something like sort of nice.
Yes,
you know what I mean, and not
like
in that
genuinely
way. Like,
nice.
she's nice, yeah, but like there's a warm energy.
Yes,
you know, and I don't know why you have that. I certainly don't have that right now. I don't have that.
I don't know why you have it, but I'm upset about it.
Well, it's like we talked about that time that we met. You know, both of us are comedians. And I think Katharyn and I have a similar energy where we come into a room and we're like, ah! You know, we just are like, I'm here. And it might be funny, but it's like, oh my God, you know, like everybody like, you know, tie the thing to the wall.
Tie the furniture down.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hurricane. You come in and you're just charming and nice and you put everybody at ease. Anyway, all right, you're free to speak now.
Thank you so much.
Peasant.
I've got to go. So I and Eve knows this about me, but Katharyn, I worked with some quite crazy people back when I
Are you
first
talking
started.
about this podcast?
Yeah,
Are you talking about this right now?
Like, don't talk about me in my face. Yeah.
When I first started doing comedy, and I don't do stand-up anymore, but when I did, it was basically because I got involved with two comedians who were incredible at the time. They were so good, but they were also addicts and they were also going through a lot of stuff. So I was never that funny person in the room, and I just kind of gave that up. It was like like starting out and doing all of it. It was always like they were the two energies, and you know both of them, Eve. They were both huge comedians in Australia for a certain amount of time, and they were always the funny ones in the room.
Very charming people.
Very charming, very charming. But addicts are usually very charming.
Yes.
And so I was always the one that never drank too much. I've never taken a drug in my life. And so
What?
So I was always the one that was kind of just sitting back watching it all. And rather than being that person that comes into the room, because I never want to be the funniest person in a room. Like, and that's why I really am drawn to Eve, and I'm really drawn to Reed Down and people, who are forces, because they come into a room and they're way funnier than I'll be. And even at stand-up nights and stuff, like knowing that, when I got up, it was always, I'd usually get, anytime I got up on stage, I'd usually get a, "Aw."
No, that's not true.
No. But when I first got up, there was usually some people up the front that would just smile. Like, they were just always like, "Oh, it's nice that he's doing this." But then,
As opposed to that chick who keeps talking about rape over there.
Eve would get up and start talking about, molestation, mostly.
Funny shit. Inarguably funny shit.
Funny, relatable shit. Look it up. But so I never felt like I had to be that person. And it was actually, it's always been a relief.
Wow.
It's always been a relief not to
I
feel
don't
that
know.
pressure.
I mean, I not that I have to be that person, but I just I find it interesting that you even have that self-awareness, because so many people don't. They're like, they walk into a room and they're like, "I will force it," and then something, it's just weird. You're like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" I guess kind of the open mic guy that he was talking about earlier.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I am this, and it's like, no, you want to be that.
Yeah.
So you're gonna try to be that. So the fact you're even saying this is very, I guess it's a humble thing, but also being in touch with yourself. Because some people, it's like those comics who are like, every comic killed. It's like that never happens.
No,
like that.
No. And you usually don't. To be fair,
yeah.
There's a lot of that male bravado. Where, especially, I think it's everywhere, really. And I'm not speaking from experience there, but sometimes when you're doing a comedy room, and especially when I used to do stand-up, and people would come off stage and talk about how well they did, how amazing it was. And the thing that kind of drew me to Eve and people like Ree and other people is there was a normal conversation as soon as they came off. It wasn't, "Did you like this joke? How was that when I twisted that? Did you like it how I paused there? Or I absolutely crushed it up there." It was, I remember Eve coming off stage once and going, "Did you even fucking watch me up there?" and she was straight. And I kind of felt like she was on stage waiting to get off and talk to me like that. I just thought it was so funny, having a go with me as soon as she gets off and going, and then bitching about me really loudly to other people. And I was just like, there's something very funny to me about that. That is so much better than people talking about their craft, because I never want to hear about other people's gigs. I only want to hear about the worst gigs. And I think it's been a host and making documentaries for so long, is that you always want the other people to be funny. And if you're not the funny one, then you've done your job. You've actually just done your job, and that's great. And then, but I know that if
I feel so called out. I'm like, uh-oh. Am I bad at this? Yeah.
If it comes down to it, if you're in a room with people and nothing's really going that well, that you can kind of be that person if you need to. I'm always I'm always on the bench. I feel like I'm always on the bench in any conversation. And then if they need me, they can go, come in real quick. Come in and just finish this. Because I think people need that validation all the time, and I've never really needed that.
Why? I'm curious.
What?
I'm curious. Yeah, I mean, Yeah. Why? What?
And also,
how are you whole? How are you whole?
And also, what do you think made you come into comedy?
Yeah.
Well, so I come from a really dysfunctional household. So I come from so my brother was a drug addict, and when we were quite young, so I was 14, he was 15, and our family home went to shit very quickly. And I was saying to someone the other day, it's like it was like feeling homesick when you're at home. Like I just hated being at home so much, and it was just like
wow, I had that
it was
too.
it was just always hard, you know. And lots of people go through it, and it's just like I remember going home, and it was just opening that front door, and that's, you know, meant to be the safest place in the world, but it wasn't. And I was always scared, always terrified, and so I just threw myself into performing and getting the bus up to Melbourne, which was like a 3-hour bus trip. And I'd just go and I'd reach out. Because I had no fear. I think it was just blind ambition. Like it was just like, you know, I was a kid from Phillip Island who has facial palsy, was born with facial palsy. And I just never had that moment where I was like, oh, I'm going to be down on myself for this. Like I just never went, I'm going to hate myself because of this, or I'm going to, you know, and wow. I would always make a joke before other people because I was like, you know, it was that thing of just going, I'm going to get in before you can hurt me.
Like I'm going to own this.
Yeah, and I actually, I don't even know what you're talking about.
With facial palsy?
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
And
so when
I can't, you don't look like there. I mean, I don't know what it is, so I don't know what it looks like, but you don't look like anything to me.
No, I love it. Yeah, you're calling me out on my bullshit. It's like, imagine if it all unravels now. After years of touring, doing stand-up about it, and then all of a sudden people go, oh, no.
It was a lie, and then we get you cancelled. Yes.
No, I noticed that when I first started doing stand-up, that people noticed it more, and now people don't. And it's basically, when I was born, the doctors used forceps, and it damaged the nerves in the left side of my face. So that when I smile, I don't get the lift on this side of my face. So I had that. I always had facial palsy, and my mum's amazing, and she forced me to do public speaking when I was really young, because she was like, if you get up in front of people, you will take that away from them, and they will never have that. So she never wanted other people to have the power to judge me. So I started doing it, and I hated it because I was so embarrassed, and she would just force me continually to do it. And so I always did that. And then I think when I turned 14, I was just like, you know, and everything was going to shit at home. My parents encouraged me to do other things because they felt awful about what was happening. So they just encouraged me to be independent. So I was going up to Melbourne, and I had no fear. So I was reaching out to the comedians in Melbourne just to film a sketch for community TV. And I was just like 100% just went for it at 14. And
wow.
And so then I didn't have that fear to do stand-up, you know, where I think I didn't have that. I think that's where that comes from. The not wanting to be the funniest person in the room is always my vibe. But it's also like, you know, when you're doing stand-up, you kind of have to be. Right. You know, there's a time when you have to kind of bring it. You know, I always feel safer.
I mean, it's all I want.
Yeah, it's all I want.
Yeah,
same.
Like right now, I'm like, get out of my fucking way, everybody.
Yeah. I'm not like that. And I'm totally kidding. I'm like trying really hard not to compare myself to fucking first-time comedians, you know? Because I'm like, I'm funnier than you. But it doesn't really matter, you know? That's amazing. I did not know any of that, because we've talked about some stuff before and on the last episode we recorded, but I don't think that you mentioned the facial palsy stuff, right?
Yeah. No, maybe not. Yeah. I probably didn't last time. But yeah, it's always been something, and you know, I used to do a lot of stand up about it. And then I think I looked around I think I was like 26, and I kind of just went, I don't think this is for me.
But
like I don't need to be this person. You know, like I was doing it so much.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. And how old are you now?
I'm 29.
Okay, so 3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I was just looking around, and you know, I just saw those people that had that drive, and I didn't have it. You know, like and
I know what you're talking about because I have it. You know,
and lots of great people do as well. Like, there's so many good comedians that have it, like Dilruk, Jai Singer. Like, you know, he was the first comedy friend I made, and he had that drive. You know, he had that drive that I just didn't have. And I would rock up to gigs, and I would always do the gigs, and I'd always, you know, 4 nights a week I'd rock up to the comedy clubs, and I did that for, I think it was like 7 years or something. Like I did it a lot, but then I kind of went, oh, it's not the lifestyle that I want.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a fucking commitment. It's like,
oh yeah.
I mean, I see it now with COVID too, because now I'm going back into the scene and, you know, I'm taking my time a little bit because it's like, it's not, you know, it's 4-minute spots or 5-minute spots or whatever. And it's not, I'm doing all new material. So it's just not as much fun, but there is something that's still amazing about it that I love about even doing the open mic stuff. But I'm like,
I still haven't done it yet, so I'm like gazing at her, like, oh, you know,
tell me what it's
What's
like
it like?
on the other side. I know your hair is gonna just find its way into a messy bun, and
will it stop going gray? I hope so.
I don't know. Mine is going gray, but I'm like, but I'm realizing because I've had this year with COVID of having nothing to do at night and going to bed kind of relatively early, or at least like. Or just chilling out if I'm staying up late, like and I'm like, oh, that's pretty fucking nice, you know. And then I'm like, well, that's gonna go pretty soon. But I've thought about it. I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? Like, not do stand up? And then I was like, I would die. I would physically die if I quit stand up. I mean, I love it and I have to go back into it, and that's just what I have to do. So, but yeah, so I understand what you're saying, that if you don't feel that way, then you kind of know. Okay, this isn't for me. Do you miss it?
I think some people force it. I do. There are times when I do miss it a lot. There are times like, you know, especially, and I think it's just a thing of seeing your friends do it and they're all amazing. And, you know, during Comedy Festival, like I saw 22 shows. Like I went and
you went to other people's shows. I can't.
Yeah,
oh my God. Oh. I'm like, are you describing like the ninth circle of hell? Like,
and this was like a month ago, Katharyn. So it's like,
oh, just shut up. I know when it fucking was. I was there to do a festival. I got stuck there for 6 months.
And Sam, you know that Katharyn and I were supposed to do a show together, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And is that why you came over, Katharyn, or you?
No, I came there to buy some towels, and I was like, you know,
she wanted to get UGG boots from the source. That's what she was doing there.
Yeah, that was a better one. She wins.
I was the funnier one on that one. No, she came over to do the show, and then she came a bit early to do some gigs elsewhere.
Yeah, right, and then got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Fucking hell. It's no, I when I went to see shows this year, I was kind of like, there was a part of me that was like, oh, I used to do this, but it is nice to be around that community because it is still there, and you know, and you just know everybody.
Yeah.
And then there's all these new people that are coming up as well, and you know, I don't want to be that person that's like, I used to do this. Like, you know, like, because you sound so sad. You know, you sound
because
like...
then comics are just such dicks. They're like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are.
Oh, you quit? Oh, you're a quitter?
Yeah. Oh, you're not real. You're not real person. Why didn't you kill yourself?
But do you feel like it's easier for you to be happy for people and support them because you know you have your own thing as well with the podcast?
Yeah, I think so. I think I like other people being funny is my main thing. Like I like watching other people be funny. So
he's like a saint.
That's like saying you prefer watching porn to having sex. Do you know what I mean? To me, it's like I'm
paying for it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I could give up all porn. I just want to have sex. Even bad sex, I want to have sex. But you're like, I just like the porn. I just get, you know, that's enough. It feeds me.
Big porn guy. Yeah. It's look at the mustache. No, but it probably is because I have other things that I'm, you know, that I get a kick out of, and also like, you know, when you start to produce stuff, you want the other people to be funny. That's always when you're making things. And I come from that. Like it's like, you know, before I started doing stand up, I was making comedy films and, you know, for community TV and everything. So you wanted everyone else to be funny, and if they weren't, it was way more work for you.
Yeah.
Like it's like doing the podcast now. It's like if someone doesn't come and bring their A game, like it is so hard after that. Like, and people have off days, and then someone comes and they're just not that funny, or they're
Yeah.
not the person that you thought they were going to be, or, you know, and then you're like, oh no, like now I've got to work really hard.
Yeah,
You know what's funny about what he's saying is now I'm like, so what game am I bringing, Sam? Now I'm like, now I need validation immediately after I've told you I've been
game, always.
Oh,
Plus,
thank
Katharyn,
you. Oh my God.
It's your podcast, so it's like
No, I still need it. I still need it. Hello, I didn't have a father. Come on.
yeah, but I do know what you mean when you have a guest on your podcast who's not like ready to kind of talk to you.
Yeah,
'cause
and
I
it
did
is
the
it is a
editing.
very hard thing.
Oh, it's
yeah,
so hard.
right. It is a really hard thing. I had an American comedian on
this me?
who
Stop talking about me.
who wasn't into the podcast at all, and I had an hour with him, and I was just trying for an hour to get things out of him, but I think he thought, what I heard after was he thought it was an interview podcast.
Wait,
And
how did this happen? Did you not?
So it was through a publicist, and it went, and it just happened very quickly. And then he was doing publicity, and then I was just slotted in for an hour in between all the other people that he was talking to that day. And so as soon as I started reading confessions, which, you know, I have 4 confessions every week, and that's just the way it is, and he just hated it. And he was so confused about it. Like, just put off immediately that I wasn't just wanting to talk about him. And so it was just an hour of... And I wanted
Classic
to leave
comedian.
halfway through. Yeah, I just wanted to leave. Like, I was just... You know, and so that thing is like, oh, when people are funny and people bring it, you're like, great, this is... If that's what the podcast is, that's great. But when people are like, they don't want to be there and you can see it, it's the most awkward... The most awkward thing you can do.
I think anybody acting like they're above anything, to me, I'm like, go fuck yourself. And that was actually something that someone said about Katharyn.
What?
No, in a good way.
I was like, God damn it! I don't
offense,
need
no
another blow
offense.
today. Did I tell you about the scaffolding?
No, our guest who we had on recently, Drew Dowdy, was saying that that Katharyn, at like even a gig that had 2 people, that she would just get up and bring it on stage. She wasn't like above it. And I know that. I mean, I know the feeling of being at a gig and there's no people there, and you just feel like, well, I shouldn't have to do that. But the truth is, it's like you should. I mean, especially with stand up, I'm like last night I was thinking about this with this guy and how he thinks like he deserves an audience and he deserves this stuff, and I was like, you don't deserve anything. You deserve to be exactly where you are, because stand up is about having to perform in. Like, you don't get the perfect... You don't get to talk to people who are stoned or on some kind of fucking laughing gas or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to talk to people where they're at and where you're at. And you have to earn your way to the next level by eating shit for years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like... Yeah.
I mean, and I you know, because now that I'm in a different country and I know it's different here or whatever, you know, so I'm kind of like... You know, starting to think about, okay, do I necessarily have to eat shit every night now, right? But, you know, I wouldn't give up any of the nights I did, because it's like those 2 people are still people.
Yeah.
And if you can connect with those 2 people, do you know what I mean? Like, how can you say that you're not working on something?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if they're looking at you and they're breathing, like, you're winning right now, you know? And like, and if you can do the material, like... there were so many. I ran like a midnight show for most of my time in New York. Midnight. That's when it began. If we were lucky.
Was this the show that I was on at? The Beauty Bar show?
No. That was not midnight.
I don't remember. It wasn't
We went to Magnolia Bakery.
I dragged her to the bakery when I was like, the bakery's closing. We got to take a taxi.
We had to take a cab. It was, I was like, it was like a whirlwind. I was like, I'm in a fever dream.
I may have had a little bit of food addiction at that time. Anyway, but the grizzly pear.
Yeah, and like what I would normally do for that show was like, you know, because you got all these people who they want on your lineup and whatever. So I get everybody who was on the lineup up. I get everybody who barked for me up, and I would do somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes to whoever was left, and I would gauge it by, you know, like if they were hating it, I'd end it. You know, because it's like that's the thing. Like as a comedian, you're like, you have to like understand like, oh, they're suffering, they hate it, let it go. You know?
Yeah.
And or you're like, okay, I'm gonna push through this because we're getting somewhere, you know, and like some people are enjoying it enough. And it's interesting, but it's like sometimes it would just be like 8 people, but I'm like, so what? Like, that's how I built a fucking hour. You know? Like, and so,
and
it's just
for the record, a good hour. I saw it.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't remember any of it. I don't think it even happened. But it's interesting, like when you sort of see people, like especially I've noticed in the UK, like they're like, what? You want me to do what? You know, and I'm like, and people like performing to packed out houses who have been doing this 5 minutes, and I'm like, you're lucky. Yeah. Like go to New York, like, and then see how funny you are too. Yeah. Like, you know, and I you know, it's just it. Yeah.
It's like anyone that just plays always to the back of the room, and I used to. That's one thing I didn't
or to
like
themselves.
With stand-up.
You know?
And just playing to the comedians, and it was always a really hard thing because there were, you know, even if there were like 2 or 3 people there who came out to watch it, then they're just playing to the comedians up the back and kind of ignoring that there's 2 or 3 people there who don't understand it because they don't. You know, and then they're talking about how shit the audience are. Right. Yeah. And then they start talking about how shit the night is. And
oh, God. No, I hate even hearing it. And I think maybe because I haven't done stand-up for so long. But it's like I would play to like 2 or 3 people at midnight, and those people would sometimes come back and bring other people. Totally. Do you know what I mean? Because they were like, thank you. That was fun for me. Yeah. You know, like, and it's odd to me. Like sometimes these comics who like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. So what? You did, you know, Kimmel or Conan 5 years ago? Okay. You're here with me now. So why not humble yourself and do this, you know? Yeah.
Well, with your podcast, I mean, first of all, your podcast is super fun. I mean, like I said, I've been on it. Sorry to brag.
I hate you.
Well, one day, if you're lucky, babe, if you're lucky.
Luck is not in my cards anymore. But I have woo-woo, so I feel okay about it.
But like, it was not a hard podcast to do. It was a very fun podcast to do. But either way, it's like if you're a comedian, you do podcasts, and some of them you enjoy, like yours, and some of them you don't fucking enjoy as much, but you still do your best. I've been on podcasts with people who I thought were kind of creepy, but you do your best to kind of not...
Stop it talking about me.
Sorry, Katharyn. But, you know, you still get something out of it. You get followers. People, you know, they get interested. They buy tickets to your show, maybe. You just, I don't know, you take it where it's at. But that's, I guess, coming back to the whole thing about why I'm... Like, I guess what I envy most in you is that you just don't seem so affected by this, like, grandeur. Like, you don't seem like you need to kind of exude this, like, bullshit success. Your success is real, but you're not hyping yourself up in a bullshit way. And now I'm kind of watching your podcast go really well, right? Like, it seems like it's doing really well.
It's doing well, and it's a nice thing to be able to go, well, it's just something I enjoy doing every week. So... I was going to keep doing it if people were listening or not, and it's kind of nice that people have kind of started to listen, and you know, it took some time to get it to a level that, you know, that I was actually started feeling like I was talking to people. Yeah. Like there was a start when it first started, you know, and you get like, you know, I was getting, you know, a few downloads, and I was like, okay, this is great. You know, like some people are listening, and then it would change the next week, and you were like, oh no one's listening anymore. And then
that's never happened to us, you know. Yeah.
But then,
shut up, Eve.
but it took a long time for it to kind of find that audience, and I just was kind of like, oh, if I just stick at it and make sure it's consistent. It's every week, and then, you know, I just started having on all my, you know, comic friends that I met through the scene, and they started sharing it, and it was just a nice thing that built over time. But it was certainly having those. I had a lot of friends that, you know, had been around comedy for a long time, and so they kind of had a following, and then, you know, I would always find like they would come on, and then like maybe 10 people would stick from that one person, and then, you know, and then another 10 would stick from that person, and you'd have all these people that would come and they go, oh, it's not for me, but then you'd have these people that would just stay. So it took a long time for it to actually get to that.
You know what it seems like to me that, and I don't know you, I just met you, but like and what I think about like all art, whether it's podcasts or comedy or film or whatever, it's like when it's done from a genuine place, you know, that's when it will resonate. And even if it takes like a while to grow, it will, you know? So it sounds like, you know, I don't listen to any podcast. I can't even listen to my own podcast. I refuse. I basically, if you want to torture me, if you want information, you like put my podcast in my ears and make me listen to it. And I'll tell you anything. I'll tell you fucking anything you want. But it seems like, you know, you're not sitting here like, oh, I'll make this thing for this reason, like to get these people or money or whatever. And I'll tweak it and I'll make it whatever. You're like, I'm going to do this thing that I think is worthwhile, that I care about, and I'm going to do it with people I like. And, you know, I know sometimes when things kind of get bigger, you know, you probably have people on that maybe you don't know and maybe you don't like, and that's just what happens. But like, it's still fostered from like, you know, a seed of truth, if you will. Which is then what allows it to grow. And I think like sometimes when things start, you know, being successful, it's like hard to hold on to that. But you kind of are giving me the vibe you're the kind of person, you're like, no, like that's in me. That's like who I am, and that's what I will do. You know?
TLDR, from little things, big things grow.
Okay, I don't know. Did she just speak English? I'm not sure.
Sam gets that. It's
I get it.
What's his name again? What's the name of the singer?
Kelly.
Paul Kelly. He's like a huge singer in Australia. And,
But nowhere else.
Yeah, I know, but
roll.
he's great. But there's a song that's like, from little things, big things grow. And in the beginning,
you just made my thing bad.
I had a good thing going.
You know what TLDR means, right?
Too long didn't read.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what I feel about what's happening right now.
But Sam, what's your, like, I guess, do you agree? Not do you agree with, but I mean,
Well, I want to ask, like, because, you know, how did you become that kind of person?
Yes, that's kind of what I want to know. Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess just slogging it out for a long time. Like, you know, just doing the work.
Like not taking the shortcuts, I guess.
Yeah. Just always doing the work. Like, I mean, I've always got up and just did the work. Like, you know, even if I didn't want to, it was like,
like,
you know,
I hella don't want to get our shit on YouTube. I barely know how to use my computer, and like it's you know, but it's not that I don't want to work, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh fuck, like, you know.
What is your thing that keeps you doing the work when you come up against maybe internal struggles, or do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I come up against these things where I'm like, I do want this, I just don't know how to get myself to do it because it's scary, or because it's new, or because what happens if this or that. Like, how do you push past that?
I just kind of think that it's just, I know that I'll be happier if I do it. You know, like, I know that I'll be able
has
to
a
relax.
soul.
And
What'd you say?
He has a soul.
Yeah. But you know,
So I know that I'll be happier if I do it. I'll kind of be able to relax, and I'll not regret not doing it, and then I'll have that, you know, and getting something done, and then sitting back and being like, okay, that's done now, and then you can move on to the next thing. But I've never been the sort of person to just stop, like, you know, just stop and congratulate, because it's always like you've just got to keep moving on to the next thing. And even though it's like it's hard sometimes, because you're like, well, you know, I want to kind of stop and celebrate. It's like, well, there's always that next thing, and you just got to keep going, because otherwise, you know, in the last 3 weeks, it's like, you know, just being sick in bed, it's like I haven't been able to do all of that stuff. But then I think some people punish themselves when they don't keep going and they don't.
Why do you
that.
see me?
But do you get anxiety and stuff like that, or are you pretty mellow in general? Like, do you get anxious about those things?
I'm pretty mellow. Yeah, I do get.
What?
I do
How?
get.
How are you? Why?
You're upsetting Katharyn.
Well, what pills?
I just think I've done. You know, I just experienced things that that have helped me cope with that sort of stuff. Like, I mean, you know, from my childhood and everything, it's just kind of like, I don't ever fear that something I can't handle will come my way, because I've actually been through that stuff before. not all the stuff, obviously, but like, even when I think my worst fears have happened, like I've been mugged, I've been like, like anything that can happen to a straight white male, that is, that can, even like people saying to me, like my worst fear ever is, doing stand-up, and you go, oh my God, well, like wait until you're on stage for an hour with someone that's too drunk to stay awake. And,
and that did happen.
Stop talking about me to my face. No,
that did happen to Sam. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, I've done 2 festivals where I've done it where, the person I'm doing the whole show with is too drunk to talk or too, and so the show goes out the window, and then you're...
And they're the main focus of the show. Like,
yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And so all of that happened, and I had to learn how to deal with it very quickly.
Right. So you've been... I just really have to say, when you said that all of your worst fears have come true, I really wanted to say, including being molested, but I didn't.
Yeah, I smiled, and I was like, "Oh, everybody's gonna think I'm a jerk," But I was thinking, and molestation. Like,
but then I was like, but then what if you were? And then that was the and then I'm like,
oh God, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't say it. You said it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I
edit this out.
Yeah. But anyway, I just had to say that because. I had to get the joke, but it's not a joke. But it's a line. It's the laugh. It's not the joke. It's not funny. If you have been
cancel her.
I know, but it's anyway. I'm like, it's not that I think it's funny. It's just that I think it's true. But okay, so right. So basically, what you're saying is that the things that have happened to you that are hard have helped you see that you can overcome stuff. And I think it's funny because Katharyn and I talk a lot about Katharyn. Didn't have a dad, I didn't have my mom, but then we had all these other family dynamics. And I find that sometimes because I've already had things that have really hurt me, I'm afraid of getting hurt again.
Yeah.
Even though I've obviously been okay. And I'm, so this week.
Yeah.
So this week I was going to do this for my Who Hurt Me, but then I was like, nah, it's too raw, but it's okay. But I spent a lot of time with my dad last week, and he's 86, and it's been really nice. We never got along. We did get along, but there was always turmoil in our relationship, me and my whole family. Anyway, now that he's 86, he's just so chill and like so much more like openly loving and expressive, and it's just so nice. And I'm more chill, and COVID has changed so many things. And it really, I saw it last week. I was like, my dad he's 86, and he's like very happy, but it's like he's 86. He doesn't have a ton of time, and he talks about that sometimes. And for days, I just cried, and like just until like a couple of days ago. And then I talked to my brother, and my brother was like, you're like, my brother was like, I couldn't believe it. My brother, who I always was at war with, now he's giving me advice that's like changing my life. But he was basically like, you got to let go. You can't control this, and you have to, whatever. But I know that the thing that was making me cry was that it was, I'll miss my dad one day, but it's also like I am so afraid of what that pain will do to me that I'm like, what do I do? It's like this panic mode. And so it's kind of like what you're talking about. I think a lot of things feel that way, where I'm just like, I can't handle it if this goes wrong. I can't handle it if that. I still kind of find my way through it. And I still do stand up, and we have this podcast, and I do date, all these things that can bring up situations that are painful. If, people don't like the podcast, or if you get canceled for something you say, like you make too many fucking jokes about molestation. But like all these things, but I'm constantly trying to regulate myself because I have that. And so are you saying you don't kind of experience it that way, or you do and you just are able to get through it or identify it?
Yeah, I think I do experience it sometimes, but it's just I think, and when I said before, like, all the bad things have happened to me, that's not true at all. But I mean, a lot of the things that could have happened to me, at least from my experience. Not saying that I'm not comparing it to what anyone else has been through, but it's like
no, but I get what
I remember, I don't know, we were kind of friends when I blacked out on stage that night. I was on stage, and I realized I had a heart condition on stage, and Sorry, my nose is just blocked again. I am trying not to exhale too loudly because it's horrific. But I blacked out on stage, like in front of people, and it was just like, it was.
Did you pass out or?
I passed out, and it was just so out of character. I found out I had a heart condition when I was on stage, and my heart was just beating really fast, and I just went straight down. And
It's a unique closer, though, gotta say.
yeah, very unique.
Yeah.
People were still trying to figure out if it was part of my set.
Oh my God.
Like, as I was getting walked off. But, all of that stuff, I was like, before I stopped doing stand-up, I was like, I'm going to regret it forever if this is the reason that I stopped doing it. So I was like, I just kept getting up. I was just like, I'm just going to keep getting up at every room and just do it until I feel like I don't want to do it anymore naturally, rather than letting something like that stop you from doing something. So I think the anxiety is there, but it's not, it doesn't stop me from doing it. It's more like I'll stop for a second. Like I'm getting up on stage for the first time in 3 years next week. And,
wow.
Yeah. And so there's a bit of anxiety there because I'm like, oh shit, like, it's I'm not match fit, and it doesn't take long for you to, even when I was doing stand up, it's like, even a few weeks off, I kind of go, fuck.
Yeah.
But, now that we've all been through COVID and everything, a lot of people haven't been getting up and performing regularly. So I am nervous about that, but it's not like, it's not something that is going to stop me from doing it. It's just, there is a little bit of, trepidation with actually getting up and doing that again, I think.
I think what you're saying is that it's the same thing for you, where you just keep going, but so the fear is there, but you do it regardless.
Yeah.
I do want to know, Sam, is there anything, it could be an inanimate object that you are jealous of?
Go for a non-inanimate object. I mean, you can go for...
Yeah.
I like that he started looking at his microwave.
Yeah.
He was like, He's like, you.
Yeah.
Plugged in.
I'm probably jealous of people that that can make I don't know. I guess I'm kind of jealous of people who just have who are just so happy doing a really regular, normal job that they love. I'm jealous of the simplicity of that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my time I've been working really hard, like doing 50 things at once and
like
always,
podcasts, films, what else do you do? Just sort of say some stuff that you do.
Yeah, so podcast, films are my main thing, but then I also produce for a lot of people as well. And,
And don't you have a day job?
Produce live shows. Yes, and I have a day job as well. Yeah, so a day job, and I'm studying this year as well. And I still.
I wonder why you're sick. That's so weird.
Yeah. And I still love to swim, and I do that, and it's like, so I think
he's an Olympian.
So I think for me it's like that, the simplicity. I'm kind of jealous of sometimes when you chat to someone, especially in an office job, and you chat to someone and you're like, what are you doing this weekend? And I never now say what I'm doing because it just seems insane. Like to someone else, they go, oh, like my diary is always full.
Yeah.
And they're going,
Are you a Capricorn?
No, I'm a Libran.
A Libra.
A Libra. But
Nice.
She got that wrong. I just want to point out she doesn't know as much as she says she does.
No, I don't
can edit
ever
that
know. But
if
when
you
he's
want.
like, I love my diary, I'm like,
But no, diary,
oh.
is like a calendar, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
I know. I'm in the UK.
right.
I'm learning.
Okay.
I'm learning. Yeah. I started using it.
But no, when someone's like, I'm just gonna, I've got a big weekend this weekend. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I probably
Eating
have
Cheez-Its.
Yeah, they're going, oh, yeah, I'll probably have brunch on Sunday. And
Torture people.
Yeah, and I might have a read and see a girlfriend on Sunday night. And you're like,
Wow.
great. And the simplicity of that, I sometimes am a little bit jealous of. The just being content with that. And it's like, that is a nice thing to me, to be able to go, oh, wow, like to be that content with doing that. And it's a point that I want to get to one day, I think.
I have both sides now, because I'm sometimes I'm like, yeah, but the things that those people, I don't know why I'm like mad at them for not wanting to do what we do, but I'm just like, yeah, but then they end up kind of a comedy show and we make that. But then I'm like, from having lived through COVID, I'm like, yeah, sometimes like a good book is where it's at. A little brunch, sit in the sun.
No, just put it in the diary. You can have it too. You can have it all right?
I did.
You can have it all.
I read my book last night for an hour and a half after a gig. I came home.
Give her a round of applause, everybody.
It's really good. Sorry you can't read, Katharyn.
I have my glasses on. I can.
Sam, so I think is the more
favorite part.
Our favorite
her
part
favorite
of the show.
part. No, it's her favorite part of the show. This is my least favorite part of the show, but we do it anyway.
It is not your least favorite. Is this your...
It is. Yes, it always has been and it always will be, but we're going to keep doing it because I want you to have whatever you want.
That's actually beautiful. I'm going to start crying in a second. This is beautiful.
That's so funny. It's like my favorite part of the show, but I just assume Katharyn loves it. I'm like, Katharyn and I, like as if we're like one person. We're a couple now and we love it. We love it when we force our guests to compliment us. So, okay, now is the part of the show where you can tell us things that you can compliment us. You can tell us things you're jealous of about us. You can, I don't know, just vibe, man. Whatever you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, but I've got to go. No, I think it's always been, especially with you, Eve. It's always been the drive that you've had for stand up, and there's always been a bit of a fearlessness there that I've always really admired. Especially your. Anytime you've always just said things, which and I edit myself a lot. Like I'm always like I want to say that, but because I'm privileged. I come from I came from a regular school and everything. I'm always like I always feel like I shouldn't have opinions about anything. Like I'm just a vanilla person. Like so I'm always like I shouldn't ever voice my opinion on politics or anything.
You don't just turn up and tell everybody that rape is bad.
Yeah.
You don't.
That's not my vibe.
I shouldn't have an opinion on it. I'm too privileged, that kind of thing.
I'm too privileged.
Yeah.
But so I think there's always been that thing where even at stand-up nights, I always really loved hearing your perspective because it was a very different perspective than everyone else's in the room. And and you were always really kind. You were always really kind, especially to me.
She looks surprised.
Am I?
Yeah,
To who?
You were really kind to me, like always. Like any comedy night I was at. Yeah, any comedy night I was at. But, my old housemate Oliver, like you were, Oliver says the same thing. Like it was always... Yeah, you were always really kind and really, really funny. And I kind of think that fearlessness for stand-up is something that I'm jealous of.
Thank you. And wait, Oliver, your old housemate, Oliver Clark.
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking love him. But I mean, and I love you too. But part of the reason I was so kind to Oliver is because he smells fantastic. I mean, he smells.
I thought you were going to say smells bad and needed it.
No.
Needed the love.
I was always just trying to sleep with him. I mean, he was.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, but
not kind anymore.
I'm kind until he's passed out in the bed. Oh, gross! Okay. I made a rape joke, everyone.
Yeah, but Katharyn, like I don't, I don't know you, but I kind of think you have the same sort of quality. And when I was listening to the podcast that you did with the cousin, it was so. You just have a way with words, I think, and a really funny and succinct way of saying things, and a really funny comedic voice. I think that I got from that podcast as well. It's funny listening to people that you're completely different from. Like I don't want to listen to anyone who's the same as me.
Yeah,
like because I go, that's actually ridiculous. Like I don't want to hear my own opinions on my Uber Eats driver sledging me. But yeah, I think that's a quality that I really admire about you as well, Katharyn. That you've got that same thing that Eve does. That is a fearlessness, and why I'm always attracted to more the people that are, I guess, just funny, and just people that are actually funnier than me and can do it in a way that I can't do. So yeah, they're the two things that I admire about both of you.
Humble, handsome.
Wow.
Great at compliments. All I need. That's all I needed.
And by the way, Katharyn, don't think I didn't watch you like totally smiling and like soaking that up like a sponge. And she's like, I hate this part. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. I embrace my, like need for other people to say nice things. And Katharyn's like, I'm from New York. I don't need anyone's approval.
Well, I liked when he said succinct because I was like, that's right. I made the New York writing,
Yeah,
I know
edit.
how to edit. I edit it down.
Yeah,
4 words. Say it in 4. Say it in 2. Say it in 2 words.
And the 2 words are always fuck off.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck yourself. Fuck you. The 3 would
She's
be
so quick.
Yeah, totally.
Sam, you seem like such a nice person. I really hope there is a beautiful, kind woman sucking your dick these
Thank
days.
you.
I
That's
really
a very
do.
lovely thing to say.
I think you deserve
nice
it. I think
little
you deserve love in your life.
Yeah.
That's a lovely thing to say. Thank
Are
you
you
so
seeing
much.
it?
Yeah.
Are you seeing anybody?
I am. Yes, I am. Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, and is that
Good
person
for-
sucking your dick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right now, actually. So
Yeah, right
there are four people the whole time.
Yeah. We should give them a shout out. Would you mind? I'm kidding.
No,
Is there anything you wanna plug?
Oh yeah, I have. It's the 3rd birthday party of my podcast.
Oh.
Confessions of
Happy
Idiots
birthday.
Live. Thank you.
A Taurus.
Yeah.
It's a Taurus.
It's a
Wonderful.
Taurus. So it's 3 years.
Wow. Confessions of the Idiots live, you said, and you're doing it
Yeah.
live over what?
At Comedy Republic. So
Fun.
great venue run by Reese Nicholson and Karen Wheatley and Alex Dyson, and it's a fantastic new venue in Melbourne. And so yeah, I'm doing one big party with 6 of my favourite guests that I've had on since the start, really, and
Wow.
doing it live.
Am I invited?
You're not there.
invited.
You're not the
there,
favorite.
but,
Sorry, you're my favorite, not his.
Can
though.
you fly over? If you can fly over,
That's
if
amazing.
you can get in, you can be on.
Yeah. Oh my God. Imagine. Like I end up in a hotel, fucking stranded in Australia for years.
Don't
be
copy
lovely.
me.
Well, so and your podcast is at Confessions of the Idiots on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
that's
are
right.
at Sam Petersen
91.
91. Is that your birth
Yeah.
year?
That's my birth year.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Give me a break.
Seriously.
Okay.
And if you liked this podcast, there was something I was supposed to plug that I forgot to plug. Oh,
Our show.
Yeah, no, not.
fucking-
I'll edit that out. So and also
No. Leave it. Make sure I feel important. Make sure we are important.
I think I am going to leave that in. If you are listening in the UK, Katharyn and I are going to be doing shows together in August.
We don't even know where we're going to go. Hot Garbage.
We don't know what it's
the return.
called. We don't-
Hot Garbage rises. Hot Garbage.
Hot Garbage Rises is amazing.
Or Hot Ashes. We're going to be doing 4 shows in the Camden Comedy Festival and then a live podcast for the first time.
Yeah.
And the 4 shows are going to be
Spooky.
it's amazing. So stand up, we'll each do 40 minutes plus an intermission.
Okay, stop making promises. Stop making
I know.
promises.
I mean, we
I'm
have to, like-
sweating. I haven't even gotten on stage yet.
I know. You're going to come and you're going to see, you're going to go, wow, these 2 have really gotten their shit together quickly.
I'm just going to be in a K-hole. You're going to be there. And
My material is all going to be me roasting New York comics, and it's not going to make sense to anybody in the room. But I'll be like, this is funny in New York, and if you're an open micer,
Yeah.
you'd get this.
That's on you for not getting this.
Yeah, seriously. I guess you guys have never heard of New York.
yeah, didn't you do your research before coming?
And so you can follow this. So we'll promote this on our Instagrams. Mine is Eve Elbow. Katharyn's is at Ill Girl You Nasty. The podcast Instagram, as you must know already, is not Confessions of the Idiots. It's Everyone's Doing Better.
Everyone's doing better.
Everyone's doing better. And we're both on TikTok. We don't post really. We're trying. We're trying.
No. Don't plug my TikTok.
I'm
My
on-
TikTok
Yeah.
is there as a relic of me trying to touch my youth one more time. That's all it exists
Well,
for.
mine is there for me to get my act together. And I mean, I really am telling myself you'll never make it unless you can get your TikTok going. So check that out. No pressure on me. And
Subscribe to our podcast.
subscribe to our podcast. We're going to be
Rate it.
launching our Patreon any second now. And we'll talk more about that in the next episode. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being
you,
here,
Sam.
Sam.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. What a nice guy. I know. Now I'm my mother. Thank you.